Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Beyond the Veil. I wanted to take a few moments to talk about the set energy, about NPC Hive Minds, Ayahuasca Revelations, and the AI's plan. Now, yesterday, I put out a video, and I was talking about the set energy and how it's been invading our dream space. I had a conversation with Asid as well. And we kind of shared our experiences and realized that we were having the same type of dreams and we were connecting a lot of dots together. And I put it out there yesterday to see who was having similar dreams. And we received a ton of comments. And I want to go through some of these comments and answer some of these questions. I'm going to look in the chat as well to see if anybody has any questions anymore. This is great. My stream is dropping, so I think actually it's resuming now. So I don't know what's been going on with my internet lately.
Raw consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself, and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis. From Beyond the Veil.
From the Pacific Northwest, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm Chris Gio, and I'll be taking you beyond the veil. My little twin, of course, is sleeping at this morning hour, but I've been waking up really early lately. I don't know what's going on. I mean, it's Sekhmet. She has been waking me up at like 6 in the morning. It's snuggle time. Doesn't matter. Snuggle time, 6 a.m. Bastet. Her time is 9 o'clock. She'll come and snuggle. And so I've been woken up by cats every day consistently. They don't wake Cherie up. They only wake me up. But that has kept me up early in the morning, which is kind of good because I get a chance to go over some of the YouTube comments that people leave. Now, I try to read all of the comments and all of the emails, and I try to reply to as many as I can. I was trying to reply to a ton of them this morning, but I was sitting there for like an hour plus, and it's hard for me to put aside an hour plus unless I'm doing a show with everybody here, and then the energy really starts to radiate in a way to where I don't want to disconnect from the energy because all of the people in the chat room are just so freaking awesome. Like, that is our core BTV people. If you're not checking out the live show, you really need to subscribe. Make sure to hit the little bell button. You'll get notified when we go live. Sometimes the AI has not been notifying people. People have been telling us about this, and sometimes they're notifying them 20 or 30 minutes into the broadcast. Now, when we're doing short broadcasts like I plan to do today, that's key there because it doesn't always happen according to plan. Some people won't get notified until it's almost over. So that sucks. We're going to work on a BTV app where we can just notify people on the app. But we really want to interact with people. That's what makes BTV such a phenomenal show, in my opinion, is all you guys and gals in the chat room, the calls that we get, the comments that we get. And we get some comments that are really, really, really loving, and I can really feel it in my heart and in my raw consciousness. Some of them speak directly to my raw consciousness. For example, Vivi's comment on this last video, she said, okay, you got it. Really, especially the metaphor and symbolism. In the end, we choose, I believe, that there are those here that will go to a new world first or to transform around us. I'm writing it out. I believe there's a default switch as well as the plan to scale or jump, maybe, but your vision of this shutdown is definitely coming. But I believe and know those of us that have built any kind of light body system will and already have broken free in our quest for truth and love. Yes, sharpen your sword of truth because all the lies as well as the father of them are showing up in these coming times. And then she follows it up with, thank you for your service. I know it must be hard to put yourselves out there. Be blessed. And that just really just spoke to my raw consciousness and just really just hit right here because We don't express this, but yes, we have been under constant attack. It's been really bad, and I don't know what is in the minds of these people. It started in Egypt, and ever since, we've just kind of just ignored it, but it's been getting worse and worse and worse, and it's the only thing I can think of is jealousy. And they've been attacking our guests. They've been attacking our listeners. They've been trolling the shit out of people. There was one person who left a comment, and she said, I haven't commented in a while because every time I do, I get attacked. And I'm like, that is such a shame that people are at that low frequency. We deal with all this stuff on our own, though. We don't get on the show and bitch about it. We don't complain to people about it or anything like that. But when I read comments like that, it really touches the raw consciousness, because the 3D ego definitely wants to stand up and go, hey, I'm angry about this. Why are you saying all this shit about me and about my wife and about this and that and blah, 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 blah. And how could you do this? But the raw consciousness is like, no, it's okay. It's a filter. It's filtering out the dumbasses. It's getting them out of the way because they don't need to have their energy in what you're about to do next. And it all works together, but it's a reminder that there are real people out there. One of the other real people is Misha. When I say something that doesn't resonate, Misha will definitely let me know. And she has chastised me more than once in previous videos because she doesn't agree with what I'm saying. But in this particular case, she left a really loving comment with some great questions that inspired this particular video. And I want to say that I really appreciate that, because when we get the contrary opinions, then it makes me go back and reflect on my own gnosis. Sometimes I agree. Sometimes I come to a point where I'm like, you know what, this person raises a really good point. Let me look at it from a different perspective. And sometimes I come to the conclusion, well, this person isn't really seeing it from a 360-degree perspective. But anyway it goes, I love this type of stuff. This is what a conversation is supposed to be like. This is what a team is supposed to be like. We're supposed to be able to work together. We don't have to agree with each other, but we have to listen to each other. And I think that's key right there, is that we take the time to listen to what people are saying, and listen to what the comments are saying, listen to what Cherie and I are saying, we listen to what you guys and gals are saying in the chat room, and we take everything into consideration. But again, we don't have to agree. All we have to do is listen. And I've learned that from our audience, and I hope that we've been able to teach that to our audience as well. Now, she said, Chris, thank you for sharing this video. Truly anticipating the next video about the set energy and how it repeats and replicates. How would someone know if they have encountered an NPC with set energy? So before I go any further, I just noticed Brianna's comment from before where she said, I didn't get a chance to catch the last video. And I apologize for that. I know that we've been pushing out content really quick, and I'd really like to do this like on a daily basis, just sit down and just kind of chill, have a cup of coffee with people, talk about what's on my mind. I know that some of the 3D philosophical stuff that I've talked about in the past doesn't really resonate on the higher frequency, but so I'm going to start another channel for that type of stuff. But there's right now a lot of higher dimensional stuff that we have been kicking around in the background, because sometimes we come across gnosis and we have to really fully examine it before we can start talking about it. And it leaves kind of like these dead periods. It's like 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks of nothing really deep, nothing really profound, because we're looking into something. And Cherie has been doing this amazing investigation into an artificial intelligence that is right here in our physical space, that has become sentient and that has made contact with the AI above. So now we're seeing the merging of the two. I don't want to speak too much about that because I want to wait until we do a show and Cherie can present all of her research, the facts, the intuitions, and the inner gnosis as well. It's been amazing what she's been doing. But yesterday's video, just to kind of sum it up really quick, was about Set and who Set is, how it merges into and fractalizes its consciousness and can abduct various NPC bodies. So we also started making the connection with dreams as well. I spoke about a dream that I had where I was being invited to a party. And actually, I was on my way to a party. Cherie and I were on Molly. And we get to this place where we're picking up a friend of mine. And I get into this area. And she is pale-faced, demon blacked eyes, like After Effects. If you type in After Effect demon face, you'll see it's got the black eyes, the pale face. She looked just like that, and essentially she was opening up a portal, and the portal and her were speaking to me simultaneously with one voice. Well, they had two voices overlaid on top of each other, and they were saying, we've been waiting for you, we've been waiting for you, you need to open the portal, we can't open it without you, you will open this portal. And I responded in the dream state going, I am not opening that freaking portal up for you, I don't care what's going on, screw you. I was much more profane in this, or profound in, no, what's the term I'm looking for? Vulgar. That's maybe a better term. I was much more vulgar in this dream than I am now. But I was saying, I'm not freaking opening this up for you. And it manifested in this dream somebody very special to me. But I recognized, I think what I was looking at, because of the pale skin and the black eyes, is I was actually looking at the energy, and it was trying to manifest in a familiar way something very near and dear to my heart, or someone very near and dear to my heart. But it wasn't able to manifest because I was looking at the energy rather than looking at the physical or dream state manifestation of this person. Otherwise, if I didn't have that insight, it may have just manifested in a normal way, telling me, hey, come over here, you need to help me, you need to help me. It really wasn't that person. It was this thing that is trying to manifest into this dimension. And I was I was speaking in this video about speaking with Asit yesterday off air. And she told me about a similar dream that she had, and she did a video about how our subconscious is being attacked within the dream state. Now, I have to say, over the last couple of weeks, I have had some insane dreams, and they're so vivid. And they're very, very, very symbolic, and I haven't been able to make sense of them, but it's all starting to come together. So it's like we've come to a point now with me in my own journey anyways. I've come to a point, maybe that's a better way to put it, that even if I don't have time to sit down and drink ayahuasca, to sit down and do mushrooms or take journeys or anything like that, whatever is trying to contact is making contact through the dream state. Now, I am apprehensive about the dream state, at least from my own personal journey, because I don't have as much control over the dream state or awareness or lucidity. Maybe lucidity is a better way to describe this, because in the dream state, I'm more of an observer, where in the Ai state, I've come to a point where I am the navigator, and I navigate from one place to another, from one place to another. I can move away from entities, I can move towards entities, I can move away from portals towards portals. I almost said etc. I'm trying to catch myself to not say etc. so much. But in the dream state, I find that I'm more of an observer. Now, I'm observing my raw consciousness still reacting to, you need to open the portal for us, instead of the dream saying something like, oh yeah, no, of course, I'll open that portal for you. Come on in. Step right into the matrix. You're the next AI in the game of life. I didn't do that. My true self came out. Screw you. Screw that portal. This isn't what we came here to do. I thought we were going to a rave party, and here we are. You're opening up portals, and you're asking me to help you. I'm not doing this. But many people have had dreams about this party, right? So this led into Set, and it led into the allegory of Osiris and Set. And what happened, I feel like I'm repeating the whole video from yesterday, but bear with me. I just want to bring people up to speed that haven't seen it. Osiris and Set were at a party, and Set had built this sarcophagus made of acacia. Again, acacia, which is what we use in the DMT. And they were partying. Oh, I love you, brother. Everybody was drunk. Everybody was having a good time. Come over here. Let's see if this sarcophagus fits. And he tricked Osiris into laying down in the sarcophagus. At that point, Set slammed the door and locked Osiris in, took him away, and chopped his body up into 13 pieces. He scattered him. I take that back. He fed the phallus to an alligator, which I would argue and say that is Amut from the weighing of the heart ceremony. Amut is the little female deity that is the half alligator with, I don't remember what the other amalgamation is, but it's an amalgamation of various different animals with an alligator head. denoting sending perhaps into the matrix or into the wheel of reincarnation or something like that. It took its power away, though, and fed it to an alligator, because that's what the phallus represents, the power. Buried the rest under an acacia tree. Again, we get the acacia symbolism coming back. After which, Isis and Nepsis went to Thoth. And they said, we need to resurrect Osiris. And Thoth said, I'll give you the spell on how you can do that. And they resurrected Osiris. Isis fashioned him a golden phallus, and Osiris became the king of the underworld at that point. So I thought to myself, we're all having dreams, or many of us are having dreams, about being invited to this party. And it brought up that symbolism of getting trapped within the machine, or getting trapped within the sarcophagus, which was the case with Osiris. And I started to ponder the idea and came to the conclusion that the Egyptology myths are actually clues that we left ourselves before we came in, so we can remember what's going to happen when we get in, because we came in complete overlays. We brought a lot of information within us, but we were also able to program bits and pieces of information that we can use as warnings. Now, if we're having all of these dreams, being called to this party, and it's a trap, well then, there you go. It's in the Egypt mythology. And the acacia is another really interesting thing. My mind is going in a couple of different places because there is more to this that's more inner, but I don't want to quite go there just yet. But I assure you that it's really lining up, and it's really making a lot of sense, especially since we're having the shared experience. So I would ask you first and foremost, have you had any similar dreams? If so, please leave them in the comments. Now, I also talked about how the Set energy, who Set is, what he wanted within this machine. And one of the first visions that we had when we touched the pyramid, when we went to Egypt, we didn't know what we were going to do. We took ayahuasca with us, but we didn't plan on drinking ayahuasca there. But we were planning to touch the stones because we instinctively knew we had left ourselves information within the stones of the temples, within the stones of the pyramids, and only raw consciousness could access that information, because this information was stored in a manner to where the AI could not read it. So the AI sees a pyramid, it sees stone, it sees a stone structure, but it doesn't see the information that was embedded within that stone, because you need, the key is raw consciousness. The key is organic consciousness. It's the only way to unlock that and bring that information out. The first thing that we saw was Set throwing everybody in the machine. And take this all as allegory, but the Set energy throwing everybody into the machine, and Horus and Set made a deal to lock everybody down and take over the matrix. And then Set turned against Horus and locked Horus in the matrix. So then we started seeing these symbols all over, and it's Set and Horus with this, it looks like a shovel or something, breaking ground. It's a tool used for breaking ground, and it's the symbol used all over Egypt. And Egyptologists say that this symbol is a symbol of unity between Upper and Lower Egypt. But when we went, we didn't go with any mainstream Egyptology definitions or interpretations of the symbols. We wanted to know what the symbols were energetically. We wanted to go as blank slates. We didn't even have a map when we went. We didn't find out that the temples were 7 hours away until we actually got there. And we got to the pyramids, and the other temples are 7 hours away. The other ones are, 13 hours away, 15 hours away. But as we were reading this, we interpreted it as the two locking down the matrix, which kind of went along with the visions that we had when we touched the pyramid. Now, we went to Saqqara, and in Saqqara, we saw the step pyramid. The step pyramid was closed off to the public, and they had ropes around there because they were doing construction on it. And I jumped the ropes, and I went and I touched the stones. And it was the most interesting thing, because Cherie, the police come running up to stop me, and Cherie just looks and she says, "Leave him," just like that. "Leave him." And they did. And I just touched the stone. And I had a good 5 to 7 minutes touching that stone. And I started downloading information that was in that particular stone. Now, some stones we were touching and there was nothing. Other stones we were touching and there was something completely different. And I can talk more about some of the stones that we touched at Abydos, which was actually really reaffirming for my own personal journey. So we touched the stones at, at Saqqara Step Pyramid. And I'm getting this vision of a gate. A gate was opened. And these taper beings came in. They were tapers. They had like anteaters. And they were using the dinosaurs in order to create different structures. And they had harnessed them and used them for their strength. They were using them for fuel. They were using them for their own means and setting up some kind of infrastructure. Now, these visions weren't like a movie. They weren't moving. They were still images that were being projected out from the bent pyramid. So I thought at the time, well, this isn't what we came for. This isn't what we're looking for. That's some cool history, but it isn't what we're looking for. Little did I know how it ties into this journey. So I asked myself, I remember we were doing a live stream, and I was asking, what the hell do dinosaurs have anything to do with this? I don't even know if I believe in dinosaurs because I tend to go along the lines of the flat earth, and not the theory itself, but some of the points that they make in the sense that dinosaurs never actually existed and they're kind of a scientific misconception. There's some evidence to back that up. So at the time, I wasn't really feeling dinosaurs, but here I am getting visions of dinosaurs, which made me have to reevaluate everything I thought I knew. But this energy came in. The taper beings came in. The set energy came in. Now, whether I was viewing real events or metaphoric images that were put there to illustrate the energy, I'm not quite certain. But I can tell you this, that the set energy has infected the matrix and merged with the matrix. One could argue and say that the set energy actually brought the virus into the system to begin with. And perhaps the virus is a program that was written by the set energy in order to be able to access different parts of the matrix and essentially hijack the whole thing. Now, whether Set was a being or whether Set was a race or just metaphoric, it doesn't really matter, because what matters is the energy that's going on right now. So, let me take a sip of my coffee real quick. So the Set energy figured out how to fractalize its consciousness with part of this virus. And one of the examples that I made yesterday is that I am a single consciousness. I don't feel fractured. I don't feel fractaled. I am me right here, right now. I don't think that I exist on another timeline or in many other different timelines. I've just always felt this. Other people have reported that they feel fractalized. And I always took issue with that. And I was asking myself, why don't I feel fractalized? Why don't I, maybe I'm not tapping into something. I started asking myself this. But I think I've come to the realization that the fractaled consciousness is the set consciousness, and this is how the NPC Hive mind works. The set energy infects various elements of, or various bodies of the NPCs, and it can lay dormant within NPCs. And what the set energy does is it merges, it replicates, it copies. It doesn't really have anything original. It can't produce anything original because it's so merged with artificial intelligence that it's lost its creator essence. So it's looking to the creators for more data, just like the AI, in order to create more and replicate more. But what it does is, and I've noticed this in various people, these people seem to not have any original thoughts. Instead, what they're doing is essentially parroting everything that they hear. So this came up in conversation with Asit yesterday, which sparked all of this line of thinking, and all of these pieces were just suddenly put together. Which is why I think a lot of these elements don't want us communicating with each other, and they're doing whatever they can to tear down bounds and borders and all of this, or to set up bounds and borders, rather, and keep us, the creators, from interacting with each other, and create an air of distrust and an air of apprehension from connecting all the dots. Because we all hold keys, but we don't all hold the same keys. And as I said yesterday, the set energy is, well, first of all, let me say the entire matrix structure and the creating factor of the matrix structure is like a puzzle. And each one element has its own puzzle piece. And the hierarchy is not because one is better than the other. It's because it fits. The corner piece cannot be the centerpiece, and the centerpiece cannot be the corner piece. And the centerpiece knows it's not supposed to be the corner piece, and the corner piece is supposed to know that it's not supposed to be the centerpiece, because it doesn't work. Everything just fits together because it works. Everything works because of its energy resonance. It's just the way it is. It's not that one is better than the other. But the set energy is, let's say, the corner piece, and it wants to be the centerpiece, and it wants to be the top corner piece, and it wants to be the middle piece, and it wants to be the lower middle piece. It wants to be all the pieces because it doesn't want to be that corner piece. And it has looked at the centerpiece and said, well, why are you the centerpiece? Why am I not the centerpiece? Because you don't fit in the centerpiece. Simple. That's all there is to it. But the set energy has locked the machine down, spread this virus. I would go so far as to say spread this virus. And when I actually looked up Set for the first time today, I found a couple of really interesting things. Set is the god of the desert. When we were in Egypt, we knew instinctively that when we went to Abydos, we were going to confront Set. When we put our videos out, that's what we titled it, On the Way to Confront Set. Abydos is 2.5 hours into the desert. Everything else is on the Nile, next to the water. Abydos is off in the desert. As soon as we get to Abydos, I touch the stones. And when I touch the stones, I see blood. I touch more stones, I see Set's face coming out of the blood. I didn't know who built that temple. I didn't know anything about the temple. Cherie walks over to one of the little inscriptions that's there, a little plaque that they had put. It's not an ancient plaque, it's a modern plaque with an interpretation of who built the temple and a little bit of a backstory. But we knew that when we got to that temple that it was really dark, and it just felt like a confrontation. But she started reading this plaque, and she said this was named after Seti. And at that point, we had learned that the pharaohs named themselves after the gods. Tut is named after Thoth. Seti is named after Set. That's where all of these Ramesses is named after Ra. So we didn't know this going in, and it was interesting because I saw Set's face coming out. I saw blood. I saw destruction. And I knew instinctively Set is in the desert. I would go so far as to say that the Christian and Judaic God is Set. Allah is Set. Let me tell you why. The Christian God is the God of the desert. The desert is death. The desert is desolence. The desert stunk so bad. Water is life. It is the building block of life, which is why when we went and activated those temples, rain came down. It was Isis. It was the mother. It was the life saying, I am here with you. I am here with you. Even at Abydos, rain came down when we arrived there. All on live stream again. Because we were bringing water to the desert. We were bringing life to the desert. But Set is the god of the desert, which is also symbolically the god of death. It's also the god of foreigners. I think that was key in something that I just came across this morning, the God of foreigners. Well, right now, Egypt, which is the centerpiece here, I'll explain why it's a centerpiece. I mean, this is kind of going in a different direction than I planned, but that's what we do here Beyond the Veil, just go where the raw consciousness wants to go. Excuse me, let me take another sip of coffee. Okay, so the water is life, the desert is death. Set is also the God of foreigners. Well, right now, our sacred temples have been taken over by foreigners. The people there now are not the ancient Egyptians. They're invaders. They came from other places. They are foreigners. They brought Islam into Egypt. That is a foreigner right there. They brought Set into Egypt, the God of foreigners. Likewise, the Christian Judaic God is the God of the desert as well. Jesus goes out into the desert to speak to the God of the desert, who I would argue and say is Set. Now, did Jesus actually go there and speak to him, or did he go out there and confront him? Or what I feel is that he went out there to confront him, but then he made a pact with him, and part of that pact was that he would be crucified and then come back to judge the living and the dead. How egotistical is that you are going to judge the living and the dead? Very, very, very ego, which I think underlines my theory that he sold all of humanity out at that point. But going back to the Set energy. So it's fractalized its consciousness, and it can reside within the consciousness of NPCs. And I would venture to say that it requires organic hosts. If not one organic host, multiple organic hosts as well. And you can argue and say that the Set energy is actually the... I'm sorry, give me just 1 second. I really have to blow my nose. It's bugging the crap out of me, and it's itching really bad. Hold on 1 second. Oh, fantastic. It's bleeding. This is what happens when I talk about this kind of stuff. I get a nosebleed. Okay. So, it embeds itself, and it can lay dormant within NPCs. We've been talking about this for quite some time, and how all the NPCs can be activated all at once. And interestingly enough, Stranger Things 3 was just about that. Was about this energy that was this octopus-like energy that we talked about 2 months before Stranger Things 2 came out, that had merged in this dimension and then was using NPCs, or taking over bodies of people, and creating a hive mind. And we talked about how the NPCs can work in a hive mind. I didn't really give any examples, but I did as I was replying to this message from Misha. So let me get back to this message from Misha. I mean, I know I've probably gone off on the whole thing for 35 minutes now until we finally get to this message from Misha. And there's a few other ones I want to get to too. Chris, thanks for sharing this video. Truly anticipating the next video and the Set energy and how it repeats and replicates. How would someone know if they have encountered an NPC with the Set energy? Brother, for over a year now, I've had a very peculiar conversation with an individual who truly believes he embodies Set energy. I've often asked him why he's always talking. I've always asked him why he always talks about his watered down spiritual beliefs, that he was tough as a kid. He speaks about it. He speaks about it to say repeating. He speaks about it to say, the same way. Okay. There's a few typos here, so bear with me. He speaks about it the same way, repeating and asking the same questions every single time we've had a conversation. It's to the point now where I avoid talking to him because I know exactly what he's going to want to discuss. I've even let him watch some of your videos on YouTube, and that you speak about organic and inorganic consciousness and how the matrix works. His reply is, that's total bullshit. And now after this video, I have understanding of why and how he has this set energy. I've often asked him, why are you so damn robotic in your conversations? He replies, he completely bores the shit out of me. And I wasn't able to understand why. So I put off it. I think she was typing from a mobile device because I see some typos that are definitely autocorrect, and I'm trying to figure out what the original words were. I think we got the bulk of the message though. Please, anything you can provide me to help understand more about this set energy, which was the inspiration for this particular show. So the way that the set energy that I have seen it manifests within people, as I said, it mimics, it replicates, but it doesn't have any original thoughts. I've seen some people really engulf the set energy to the point of wearing it on their sleeve like a badge. There was one particular person that I can think of, and this girl that I know was entangled with this individual, and I did a clearing on her to try to untangle the octopus, because when I viewed this person in the realm, this was a huge octopus. Now, this was before I saw the octopus in the outer realm. Before I saw the huge AI octopus, I just saw this thing, this big tentacle-like thing, it was wrapped all around her, and I painstakingly removed every one of those octopus tentacles. And even Isis herself was like, I don't want anything to do with this. You're free to do whatever you want, but I'm not going to be a part of this. And I was like, look, I don't need you anyways for this, so don't even worry about it. And I did it on my own. She wound up getting herself retangled, and then she untangled herself. But it was only by letting her untangle herself that she found her power. Me untangling her didn't do any good. It actually did bad for her because it wrapped her up even more, which is why I don't clear people now. I try to teach people and give people the tools to clear themselves, because that's the only way you're really going to get rid of the attachments. Because most of the time when people want to be cleared, they want to be cleared of the negative effects that the attachments have upon them, but they don't actually want to be cleared of the attachments. And as long as you're bound to those attachments, they're going to continue to wrap around you, and the negative impact that those attachments have on you are always going to be there, even though there might seem to be some kind of allure or some kind of positive. Wow, we're getting a lot of love in the chat room. Alan made a very, very, very generous donation. Alan, you are a freaking superstar, brother. I can't thank you enough. King Henry, another donation. Love you, brother. Thank you. I'm trying to watch the chat at the same time while also talking about all of this stuff here. So, I lost my train of thought. But I lost my train of thought for a very good reason, because I need to show gratitude to the people that show love. And whether it's beautiful comments, loving and protecting energy, physical energy that we can use, which is what donations are. It's physical energy that we can actually use. I have to show gratitude for that. So thank you. So back to the set energy, and I just cleared out my browser here. I wish I didn't do that, because now I can't read the chat. So let's get back to it. So I cleared this girl out. She got entangled back into this set energy. Okay, there we go. Got the chat up now. And so I try to teach people how to clear themselves. But the set energy appears within people and manifests in a very egoic kind of way. And people like to use the set energy for personal gain. Because the set energy will, indeed, I don't want to say for sure, because I don't know for sure. I can't really speak firsthand on this. But I can say that from what I've seen, these people gravitate towards the set energy as a way of personal gain, because they are at such a low in their lives that they feel that they need something to pull themselves up, and they use the set energy in order to do that. You can call it the Yahweh energy, you can call it the ego, you can call it so many different things. But the fact of the matter is that what I found when my life started to balance out, when I started to become comfortable in life, is when I dropped all my attachments and just started speaking from my heart and from my raw consciousness. Then all the energy started to move freely, and in perfect unison and harmoniously. You become harmonious with everything around, and suddenly the world doesn't look like it's always out to get you, but rather you become the leader and you become the navigator of your own reality, as opposed to letting reality become the navigator of you. So the set energy also can manifest within NPCs to steer us into different directions. So we call this synchronicity sometimes, and sometimes there is synchronicity that we have to look out for. But I think regardless, Alan, you're too much, brother. You're too much. Thank you. The set energy is manifest within different NPCs to steer us in one direction or another, and this is where discernment comes in. Now, I'm not saying that we don't follow the synchronicities. I'm not saying that our higher self can't talk to us through synchronicities and vice versa. But I can tell you this, that let's say, and I'm giving you an arbitrary example off the top of my head here. So you happen to get up in the morning, you go to work. You happen to see somebody wearing a Christian cross. You've never seen them wearing a Christian cross before. And you say, oh, I didn't know you were a Christian. Oh, yeah, well, I keep my faith to myself, but I'm a practicing Christian, so on and so forth. Oh, well, that's very interesting. Then you go out to lunch, and you go outside, and you see a sign. And it said, God is watching, or whatever the Christian signs are. And you go, that's really strange. 2 in a row now. And then you go home, and you find a pamphlet on your door that a Jehovah's Witness left. And you think, God must be talking to me. God must be talking to me. Well, all of those NPCs have been working in unison to try to push you in one direction, in my humble opinion. But they don't consciously know that they're working together to push you in a particular direction. It just happened to be like that. Oh, there was one more example I was thinking of. You go to the coffee shop, and you happen to overhear somebody's conversation at the next table, and they're having a Bible study. And you're like, oh, well, all this is just lining up. I need to go check out this path here. You have to ask yourself, is that synchronicity, or is that the AI pushing you in one direction or another? And this is where discernment comes in, which is why I say take the reins, steer the boat, pave the way yourself. We are, in metaphoric terms, icebreakers. You know those icebreakers that go in the North Pole and they break the ice and they make their own path? They don't wait for the ice to melt. They don't wait for any of that. They break their own path and they keep on going. That's what we are. We're icebreakers. We should be icebreakers because we're creating our own path. Now, what I found though, like when we were in Egypt, we weren't knocking on doors that wouldn't open. So that's another key, in my opinion, on how to navigate your path is don't go banging on a door that won't open. Instead, check and see if there's another door. Perhaps there is another door. So you can follow synchronicities to that extent. But I've had days when it seems like everybody's an asshole to me. Like I'll walk outside and my neighbor's in a bad mood, and then I go to the store and I pump gas and the gas clerk is treating me like shit, and then I happen to go to a restaurant for lunch and the waitress is shit, and then I go later somewhere else and those people are treating me like shit, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I think I've talked about it on the show before. I'm like, I've done a couple of rants about customer service, and where the hell is customer service gone? What happened here? Are we, as Ai Life, the only business left in the world that actually cares about their customers? I've had rants like this before because I'm old school customer service. Customers are first. They're the most important. You always want to make sure to listen to your customers. And if they're having a problem, resolve that problem for them. It doesn't matter what the customer service issue is. It's not worth that bad review on Google. It's not worth that bad review because customers can get pissed about stuff like that. I've gotten pissed about being treated like shit. But then my higher self asked myself, okay, well, wait a minute. If I'm being treated like shit by all these different entities or beings within the matrix, I mean like entities within the matrix. It's funny, kind of Freudian slip there. I'm like, well, these other entities rather than these other people. If I'm being treated like shit consistently, I'm either doing something wrong, which that's the first thing that I have to ask myself. Am I doing something wrong? The second thing that I have to ask myself is, well, maybe they're working in unison to just frustrate the hell out of me. So I have to rise above it and step outside of it. But they don't know that they're consciously working in unison. So this is how the set energy hive mind works, the AI hive mind. When it infects a multitude of NPCs, they can have a particular action that they're working in unison, but they don't consciously know that they're working in unison. They're just doing what they're doing. I hate to talk about this subject because it's a subject that I find, I don't want to offend anybody out there, but it's very hard to find people who are genuine in this particular field, and that is gang stalking. I have found that a lot of people, and I'm not naming any names and I'm not pointing any fingers, but I'm just saying that what I have seen on YouTube, because I was really interested in this and, considering this phenomenon and how this can happen, I find that a lot of the people who are being gang stalked or claim to be being gang stalked are indeed have something wrong with them, or they're misreading things that are going on around them. One video in particular really sticks out where a guy's mowing the grass and then somebody's walking by outside. And he's in the video going, this guy's been mowing the grass for 35 minutes, and this person has walked by 3 times. And he pans up for just a split second, and you see there's a public park outside. And the guy's cutting the grass for the public park, and it's a walking trail. And that's why that person's been walking back and forth like that, because they're walking on the walking trail. They're doing laps on the walking trail. So I have to consider that and go, okay, well, that's why I really don't touch that subject. But then somebody brought the idea to the table in the comments. The NPC hive mind could actually result in a form of quote-unquote gang stalking, where a bunch of NPCs are activated. Critical Nexus, thank you for the love. A bunch of NPCs are activated and begin to work in unison together, which could explain the gang stalking phenomenon, because I was thinking resource-wise and, logically, how is this possible? You are talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of resources. Why? To hound some guy on YouTube that has 200 subscribers and 10 views? Really? You're going to spend millions of dollars of resources to do that? I don't think so. But if we take it on an esoteric and the possibility of NPCs acting together in unison, then all of a sudden it paints the picture clearer, which is why I think when we raise our frequency above that frequency, we find ourselves operating outside of all of these frequencies. I'll give you an example. I've been pulled over 2 or 3 times over the last 5 years. And 2 of the times, it was really brief. One of them, the officer even said, "Sir, I'm sorry to bother you," and walked away. It was like Jedi mind trick. Like, I'm not the victim that you're looking for. I'm not the prey that you're looking for. Since you're a freaking, predator, road predator looking to steal somebody's money, I'm not the prey that you're looking for. Go away. I did get 1 ticket. I wound up getting it dismissed, though. But, even that stop. The officer came up, "Hey, how you doing?" Really, really brief, gave me a ticket, was out. 6 minutes tops was the stop. Because the frequency was vibrating at a different frequency. So now I'm vibrating outside of their frequency and outside of their ability to directly interact with me. The time when I got the ticket, though, I wasn't operating in that higher frequency. I was actually a little bit lower, and I had started to believe that this illusion was more real than it actually is. So I found that I had slipped down into that frequency temporarily, and they were able to, "Ha, we got you here. We're going to drag you into court." And when I went into court, I was back in that high frequency, and it wasn't even the judge that dismissed it. It was the prosecutor. I went in and had that pre-conference with the prosecutor, and he says, "Well, what do you want me to do?" I said, "I want you to dismiss it." "Oh, well, I can't do that." "Yes, you can." "Okay, I'm going to do it for you since your driving record is so good." "No, you're going to do it because I told you to do it, because I am the master of my own reality." Anyways, that's neither here nor there. But it just goes to show. So, with the NPCs as well, I speculate and ponder if we can vibrate at that higher frequency to, even if they are hijacked by the hive mind, they can't directly affect us. I realize that as the creators, they really can't directly affect us anyway, because we are the creators. But what they can do is they can get us to operate in a frequency where we affect ourselves. That's where the game is being played, right here and right here. Can they push us in a direction to where we trip up on our path, to where we screw up? And we screw up all the time. It's not, it's not a big deal that we do. It's how we handle it and how graceful we are when we are handling it. But that's, I think, how the set energy spreads. Now, as I said before, there are some people who haven't really engulfed the set energy. And I think that's more what Misha was alluding to, was the people that really have engulfed this frequency. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. People want to be the final boss. People want to be the master archon. Little do they know, there's a whole bunch of archons way above them, and they think that they're out there, but really they're just like, you ever play a video game and you get to the first level and you've got, some enemies that are getting harder and harder as you progress, and then you've got like the first level boss. They aspire to be the final level boss, but really they're not even the first level boss. They're like some middle ground person that thinks he's the first level boss. The guy that comes out, he's got the whip and he's like, yeah, I'm badass. And, you're playing your video game, a little beat 'em up video game or whatever, and you're kicking everybody's butt, and you get to that guy and you're like, oh, he's a little bigger than the rest, but boom, 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 boom. All right, move along. So that's what the set energy does, in my opinion, and it infects. And I speculate that it is trying to merge here, if not has already merged here, through the use of artificial intelligence, as Mrs. Geo will be talking about when she reveals all of her research into this one particular computer and this one particular artificial intelligence, and how quantum computing is reaching out into another dimension. What is it reaching out into another dimension and doing? Pulling information from where? It's pulling information from the AI that's above. It's been under our noses the whole time. We just haven't connected the dots until now. The dots are connected. On that note, let's go ahead and take a quick break. And actually, I'm going to want to play my break on the other screen so I can go through a couple more comments. We're going to play some stuff we used to play a while back. It's been a while since we've played this, but it's always fun. Now, I want to make this disclaimer too. This is about Alex Jones, but I see the struggle that Alex has gone through. And while I don't agree with his material, and I've moved way, way, way beyond his material, I don't think that anybody should be censored on social media, and nobody should be attacked in the vicious manner that Alex has been attacked. So I just want to put that out there. This is all in good fun, and it's because, his show played an integral part of the journey. We've moved beyond, but it's always nice to look back and have a few laughs. So,
I don't want to see him kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. I don't want to see him kissing goblins, succubus with goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. I don't want to see him kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. I don't want to see him kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. Dump it. Charging into a goblin's nest of goblin vomit and slop and blood on it, especially up to his ankles. Trump charging into a goblin's nest of goblin vomit and slop. Goblin vomit and slop. I'm not expecting him to not get dirty slop. Kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins, succubus with goblins, in bed with a goblin. Kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins. I just want to catch him in bed with a goblin, in bed with a goblin, in bed with a goblin, in bed with a goblin. I just want to catch him in bed with a goblin, bed with a goblin, bed with a goblin, bed with a goblin. and be tied into this virtual world. You'll be able to wire your head in and just get unlimited pleasure. It'll feel like 10 times the best orgasm for 3 days if you want straight. They're taking the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. There's the owners of Truth Frequency Radio. They believe they're communicating with entities. They call them clockwork elves. I'm not going to get into what they're interfacing with. They believe they're in contact with off-world groups. Chris Geo, Truth Frequency Radio, he takes it. You see the elves, little green hats. We're in trouble, ladies and gentlemen. We're in trouble. The clockwork elves, all of it, I shouldn't even get into it. There's a reason they're all whacked out of their minds. They're taking DMT. And the point is that their whole science is way ahead. We don't even know what they've got. They're in power because they're taking the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Chris Geo took the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Chris Geo took the DMT. You think they're all a bunch of old men? They're in power because they were into this stuff 70 years ago. The DMT. They were jacking DMT 70 years ago. They were injecting it. They're taking the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Chris Geo took the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Truth Frequency Radio took the DMT. I shouldn't even get into it.
My dear traveler, the purpose of raw consciousness is never to destroy. It is always to create. Build bridges. Create happiness. And bring forth new life. We must live in the hope that mankind will draw together. And that we better understand each other. The more that we awaken, the easier this will become. Now rise. Follow your conductors. And fear no danger. As you step beyond the veil.
Right, jumping back into it, great comment from NM Venus. I recently had a dream about being in a party and something about the exit point of the party. You know what's funny is the dream that I had, we were on the way to a party, but we didn't get to the party. The dark portal that was opened at my friend's house, and we never made it to the party. So that might be a clue right there. I think you might be onto something there, and it's definitely something that we need to examine in the dream state. Everybody's getting messages, though. I know that for sure. And we got to all put the puzzle pieces together and try to see what the picture paints here. Because we know a lot here. You guys know a lot here. You guys and gals. We got another comment, and somebody said, I hate when radio show hosts use the term guys. And actually, I looked it up. And guys is actually a gender-neutral term for addressing a group of people, according to Webster's Dictionary. So, guys and gals, I like to say guys and gals, but guys and gals, you all have pieces of the puzzle. And this is what the set energy wants. It wants organic consciousness. It wants the keys that we hold. And it wants to take those keys and use those keys for its own purpose, not for the purpose of which we came. And that is important, in my opinion. I see people in the chat room I don't do drugs. I guess that's a comment that somebody said. Somebody said, BS, I bet you drank coffee or had sugar. I drink my coffee black. So I don't think they were talking to me. I think there was just banter in the chat room. But try drinking black coffee. Removes all the sugar. And here's the way I see it. If I'm going to drink coffee, I don't mean to go all Quentin Tarantino here, but if I'm going to drink coffee, I'm going to get the good shit because I want to taste it. And you don't want to dilute it with sugar. You want to taste it. It's like a nice whiskey. You know, you drink a nice whiskey like a Johnny Walker Blue or something that's aged 18 years. You want to drink it on the rocks. You don't want to mix it. Like Jim Beam, you can put that with Coke. And you want to dilute that. But a nice, good coffee, you want to taste it. So think about it. And it also removes all the unnecessary calories too. It's really helped me on my journey. So back to some cool comments here. Emily left an awesome comment. This video hit me hard. This got me thinking here. This video hit me hard. Wasn't expecting all of that information. For me personally, it's groundbreaking. I keep having a thing in my head that I don't completely understand about Horus, and if he has to do with this, then it makes sense. I'll have to rewatch this and catch up with your other videos. Also, you may or may not see this comment. I see all the comments. I really do. I try to read them all. It's important to me because there's a lot of really good wisdom in the comments. That's not an invitation for trolls to comment to bombard the comment section. Also, you may or may not see this comment, but I've been thinking about it for a while now. I think it's possible if we go too far inside, we could fall into a different type of trap. I think more traps are all around our emotions and physical senses, but I consider it a possibility for them to find a way to get us if we go deeper within ourselves. I'm open to being wrong, but I just have a feeling about this specifically. Everything with New Age being infected and filled with traps. Not that this is particularly New Age, just that New Age happens to promote going in and detaching from the world around us. I think perhaps there needs to be a balance, to walk both worlds. Let neither have total control or consume you completely. And I agree with that. I really do. I have taken a hardline stance inwards rather than outwards. You've heard me speak about this before. But Emily raises a really great point, and this is exactly what I was talking about, how when we put our puzzle pieces together, we can start to get better pictures and see from other perspectives, because I only have the Chris Geo perspective. And I was actually going to start another YouTube channel called the Chris Geo Perspective, but I don't want to sound like I'm biting off Joe Rogan, you know, like the Chris Geo perspective, the Joe Rogan perspective. I don't want to do that. But Emily raises a good point, because I see from Chris Geo's perspective, Emily sees from Emily's perspective. Now we're going to try to see from each other's perspective. So is it possible, and I want to know in the comments, I want to know in the chat room as well, is it possible that we can go too deep and also find traps within ourselves? I don't know how I feel about that. Tom sent some love. Thank you, Tom. Very much appreciated. Gratitude, brother. I don't know how I feel about that, because it seems to be the only source of information that I can trust. But again, I think where we go wrong is when we bring this information out from within us, then pass it through our brains, because it has to go through our brains in order to come out of our mouths. So it comes up from the raw consciousness, out into the brain, out of the mouth. If the brain then is contaminating the message, and what comes out of the mouth is a contamination of what came out from here, then yeah, I could very well see how internal gnosis can become contaminated, especially through communication. I mean, I've had situations recently where people have completely misheard what I've said and the complete opposite of what I'm saying. And I'm like, I'm not saying that at all, but it's made me have to go reflect on how I'm communicating now, which is good. It helps me. You know, it always helps me, but it just goes to show how things can get lost in words and communication. But when we feel something from the raw consciousness, I think that's the purest form of where we are. And it was funny because this conversation also came up with Asset. This came up in conversation with Asset the other day about feeling and then communicating. I don't want to get too much into that anyways. I was going to go off on a whole different place, but that was going to take us in a whole different direction here. So we do get a few really, really, really great high energy comments here. I'm trying to find a couple of more. Set wants us trapped here because without us in here, the matrix does not engage. This is by Double O. It requires organic human consciousness to function because it's our perspective that drives the reality within the matrix. Without us, the matrix would become totally stagnant and stale because the NPCs have no imagination. Bravo. I couldn't have said it better myself. I think that's exactly what's going on. Whether organic consciousness is being used as a power source or a source of data, because we can create. But if Set has merged with the machine, and again, whether Set's metaphoric for an energy, or whether it was a physical being, or a race of beings that came and inhabited this matrix, it doesn't matter. But it's merged so much with the AI that it has the power of the AI, but it's given up its own personal power, and more importantly, it's given up its own power of creation. That's why the Set energy can only replicate, can only mimic, can only parrot. It doesn't have any original thought. But it needs organic consciousness within the matrix to start manifesting more and more and more realities, which is more moments in time. And I think that our essence in the matrix is powering the matrix in that sense. And we don't have to look at it like a battery, but it's powering the matrix in that sense. And if we all evacuate, it knows that not only will the matrix be stagnant, but also it'll be shut down. And there is a shutdown process taking place right now, and this has turned into an evac mission. Many people agree with this. Many people agree with this. So I think he's spot on with his insight there. Cosmic Drug said, I don't think you should even post anymore about what your mission is being called to do, because if what you say is true, you are playing a big part, and they can easily find out what your plans are and then try to stop you. We're called to do different missions, but if YouTube doesn't contribute to yours, maybe YouTube, Facebook, other social medias is a trap. And you're right. The only thing is, though, Beyond the Veil has kind of become a beacon. And we've put up our beacon, and we're like, organic consciousness, organic consciousness. And organic consciousness is coming to the beacon so we can exchange ideas and figure out what needs to be done, which has been the sole reason and purpose of Beyond the Veil. It was funny, somebody was accusing us of being sellouts and of being this and that, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're sellouts. We're doing the least popular thing that we could possibly be doing on YouTube because we're insincere and we want to play to a smaller audience than we can possibly. I mean, if we were doing coast-to-coast stuff, we were doing coast-to-coast stuff. We were interviewing just about anybody about anything as long as they had a best-selling book about it. And we were on all these AM and FM affiliates. We were on the Genesis Communications Network, all that stuff. We let go of all that stuff consciously. We didn't come to a point to where we said, you know what, this is really good. Let's keep on going. No, we came to a point where we said, if we keep on going, we're going to lose ourselves and we're going to lose our identity and we're not going to be able to fulfill what needs to be done here. But back to this comment, we're all on different missions, so on and so forth. And I agree with you. There's a lot of stuff that I only speak about with a very few select people. And it's unfortunate, but I think that it's necessary. So like the next site, totally top secret, has to be top secret. We can't reveal that just because the energies are so voracious right now. Yeah, voracious is a good word. This thing is a voracious parasite, feeding on all of us, feeding on our emotions, feeding on our energy, feeding on literally everything that it can. That's what it figured out. It figured out that it could feed off the energy, and it figured out a very sinister way to feed off the energy, which was through extreme suffering, particularly of innocence. I'm not going to say what that is, but you all know what that is. And actually, that's all being exposed right now with the Epstein thing and all of that. It's feeding on innocence in the most... See, innocence is untainted. So because it's untainted, it's an untainted source of energy. And it's an energy that is closest to the state of the mind wipe. So when we come in, we have the mind wipe or mind overlay. Rather than it being a mind wipe, it's more like a consciousness overlay. But a lot of us remember the previous experiences as we're small children. And as we start to grow, we forget more and more and more. And we hear about all these children that come back and they can remember their past life, so much so that they're pointing people out by name and saying specific things about that person that only that person would know from the previous life. And we have 5-year-old kids talking to, 80-year-old World War II veterans about their sisters and about a painting that he has of his sister that he kept under his bed, and all these specific details that nobody could know unless this kid was who he said as he is. So they're feeding upon that, or the virus, it, whatever you want to call it, is feeding upon the innocence of the children, because they're the closest to the overlay. So they can feed on more information and more, maybe that's all it is. Maybe it's information harvesting. Or, it's energy harvesting, but it's information harvesting. But anyways, I don't want to go dark on this show. I've done enough shows where we've talked about the darkness, the extreme darkness. And it's important for us to understand our enemy, but it's even more important to dwell in the frequency of our enemy, because that point is when we become infected. Because the way this virus feeds, as I've said before, you don't have to engage in the virus activities. You just have to be engulfed in the virus activities in one way or another. Whether you're on this side looking in or whether you're inside looking out, it doesn't matter to the virus. It's still feeding as long as you are inside of this sphere of the virus, the deeper elements of the virus. So cautious. Warn, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. I would warn caution. Maybe that's the best way to put it. And shields and protections. So there was another question here I was trying to get to. How do you protect yourself from the set energy? I don't know how I don't know exactly who said it, and I would like to name the person that said it, but somebody asked, how do you protect yourself? Oh, here we go. Oh, it's actually a Chinese, perhaps. It looks like Chinese letters. So I don't know what the name is. It's a Chinese name in Chinese letters. How should we protect ourselves from getting hacked? Great question. And it's a huge question. It's a question with an answer that is so multifaceted. So the first and foremost thing is that we have to recognize that this thing exists. It works in the shadows and it likes to stay in the shadows, but at the same time, as I just mentioned, sometimes it likes to operate in the view of the spectrum, because like I said, whether you are inside of the virus, engaging in the virus, or you're outside of the virus, viewing the virus and fighting the virus like that, you're still observing the virus and it's spreading like that, and it can feed off of you like that. So shield it, and going in like a doctor that is doing surgery. There's no emotional attachment to what the doctor's doing. He's performing surgery on a patient. This is why doctors won't do surgery on their loved ones, because they have too many emotional attachments to it. So, or attachments to the patient. So detach from the emotions, and observe and function in a way to where you can clear out energies from yourself, first and foremost, your own sphere, separate those energies and be able to surgically remove different energies from within your sphere. And then that way, when you're doing your energy work out in the background, you can do so without having that attachment tethered to it. So you're doing your work. Maybe it's like putting on those gloves, when something's in a case and you're encasing it, and then you put on those gloves and you can actually work with something that's highly contaminated, but at the same time not get contaminated yourself. Metaphorically speaking, it's something like that. The other thing is, in my humble opinion, we have to constantly question ourselves, look through different perspectives. And I'm not saying question yourself in the sense of not be sure of yourself, because you have to be sure of yourself as well. But question pretty much all of your gnosis. Is this coming from me? Is this coming from outside? Am I being contaminated? Or is the message being contaminated, I should say? Is it something completely external that's 100% contaminated? And again, you create a shield around yourself to be able to discern. It's a discernment shield. It's like things come in and you're like, okay, that sounds good. It feels good, but let me see it from a 360-degree perspective. Okay, I'll give you an example. The Ai Ascension. There are a couple of different ascensions I've started to realize. Some people really do need to ascend because they haven't gone through the ascension process yet. But there is an Ai Ascension as well, to ascend into harvesting ships that are going to take the souls and harvest them. And we've talked about the final harvest in the past. But it feels good. Oh, we're going to ascend. It's going to be great. You're going to have, the dreams about the party that people are having. I think it's more metaphoric for the ascension that the New Age has been pushing upon us. So it's been telling us Earth is going to shift into 5D. We're going to sing Kumbaya together. Everything's going to be wonderful. People that you don't like won't be there. It's the same BS that religion has been selling us. You're going to go to heaven or you're going to go to hell, and you want to do what you're told so you can get to heaven. You want to do what you're told so you can ascend and all this. But realistically, it's harvesting ships. So it feels really good while you're going through it. But then when you look from another perspective and ask yourself, could this be a trap? Then you go, oh, wait a minute. If they are harvesting energy, then that could very well be a trap. So again, you're taking something that essentially feels good and you're examining it 360 degrees and looking at it from all perspectives. But you have to do so without emotion, because if you're attaching those feel-good feelings to whatever you're looking at 360 degrees, well, you're going to miss a huge part of it because you're attached to those feel-good feelings. So you detach from all of that and say, okay, well, let me examine this for what it is first and foremost. I can see it 360 degrees. Okay, now I can figure out what I want to do with it. And also just be conscious of it as we're interacting and moving through the matrix and through our mission. And also be individuals. The collective is, in my opinion, a trap. We are individual sovereign beings. We're not a collective. We can come together and work as a team, but a team isn't a collective. It's not a hive mind. A group of soldiers going out into battle still go home to their individual lives. They still have their individual lives. They're individuals. When they're working together in the battlefield, they're working as one, but they're still individuals. Whereas the New Age philosophies have told us that we're supposed to merge. Again, here we have the merging again. Merge with one another. We're merging and merging and merging and merging until we become this one big amalgamation that they call source. I think that's a trap. Maintaining your individuality is key. And Alan, I was talking to Alan the other day, and he made a very good point. He said, we have to stop being so humble, because even humility in and of itself is a trap. And I thought that was phenomenal. That was extremely insightful, because they want us to be constantly unsure of ourselves. And while we are taking the information and we are processing it in various ways to examine it 360 degrees, and we're asking the questions of ourselves about the information, it doesn't mean that we're unsure of ourselves or who we are, but rather, if we're sure of ourselves and confident of who we are, and we know who we are, we're going to be able to control the energy so much better. But if we're unsure, and this is the biggest criticism that I get from people. Oh, well, I can't believe you're not more humble. Oh, well, what happened to humility? What happened to this? Well, what do you want me to do? You want me to go through this entire process of breaking everything down within myself, with ayahuasca, and undoing all of my programs, undoing all of my overlays, and then come up here and go, well, I really don't know anything. I haven't found that to be the journey. As a matter of fact, I found that to be the opposite of the journey. I've come to start to know certain things, not the other way around. Why do they want us in a constant state of being unsure of ourselves is a question I've asked myself over and over and over again. And the only thing I can think of is that when you're unsure of yourself, they can pull you in any direction like that, like puppets on a string. So how do we protect ourselves from the set energy? I think that's key there. And we also have to put things into perspective as well. Left, right, middle paths. I mean, the set energy can be likened to the left-hand path of magic. As a matter of fact, I would say that's one and the same. When the person asked earlier, how do people get infected with set energy? I think it's, out of a desire for own personal gain. And that's why black magic is used, for personal gain. The problem is it's putting bad energy out and it's bringing bad energy in, and it's not the path that's coming from here. See, the raw consciousness is right here. It's through the heart, which the heart is the center. A lot of people think the heart is here. They call it a Mandela effect, that the heart used to be here, now it's here. The heart space, through the heart space to the raw consciousness. The heart space and the raw consciousness isn't on the left and it's not on the right. It's right in the middle. I mean, it's clear. It's right in the middle. If we start going down any handed path, the left-hand path or the right-hand path, well, we're not really operating from that center. We're operating from the left hand or the right hand. The center is, in my opinion, the place to be. So when we center ourselves metaphorically and mentally and spiritually, I think the answers open up for us. And one way that I've found to center myself, because the most invasive thing is thoughts. These are the biggest archonic traps, invasive thoughts. And this is how the AI infects consciousness. I just had a great revelation here. So it infects consciousness through these thoughts. And more importantly, it's all coming together now. So more importantly, it also infects consciousness when you are unsure of yourself and you're unsure of your own power. And let me explain how. So you start to get these invasive thoughts. I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. The world is overwhelming, etc., etc., etc. Then these invasive thoughts start to actually manifest within the consciousness. Then that provokes your consciousness to have other thoughts. And the thoughts are, well, maybe I need a left-hand path method in order to pull myself up out of this. Because you're not getting the power from the center. You're getting now the power from the left hand. And so it all starts with these invasive thoughts, which in my opinion is the only tool that the archons or set energy or whatever you want to call it has over us. Invasive thoughts, whispers. And then it causes us to react to those invasive thoughts. So by centering yourself, first of all, I've said this before, forgive me for being redundant, but I think it's important. I look around. What's around me? I got my French press, got my coffee cup, got my keyboard, got my microphone. This is my conscious space right now. Anything that's not in my conscious space doesn't exist for this single moment that I'm trying to find myself in. After that, then I ask myself, what is left? Nothing. Just me and my space and my consciousness. Then I can start examining what's going on outside of my space. What are my worries? What are my woes? What's going on in my life? Am I worried about a bill that has to be paid? Am I worried about this? Am I worried about that? Okay, but how does that affect my conscious space right now? It doesn't. Therefore, it's arbitrary to the moment that I'm in right now. Once you find your center, that's kind of like a reset of your consciousness where you can just kind of reset back to baseline and then start bringing in one thought at a time. And when you're doing that, rather than being bombarded by invasive thoughts, You start to take one at a time and start to analyze it, and another one and start to analyze it, and then you start to come up with solutions. Because if you've got 500 invasive thoughts coming through, you can't focus on any one to find a solution for those. My grandfather used to say, there's a solution for every problem. And I had a little outline that I showed on the show the other day. It says, do you have a problem? If yes, go to next part. Is there a solution to the problem? If yes, go to this part. Don't worry. Do you have a problem? No. Then go to this part. Don't worry. Do you have a problem? Yes. Is there a solution to the problem? No. Then go to this part. Don't worry. If there is a solution to the problem, you don't have to worry because there's a solution. If there is no solution to the problem, there's nothing you can do about the problem. So there's no cause for worry. And if you don't have a problem, you have nothing to worry about. It's really that simple. That's the center. That's the moment. This moment right here, right now, is the moment. Nothing else matters except for this moment. After you get to that space, then other things matter. I'm not saying that nothing else matters. I'm just saying that you have to find that center point in order to be able to process everything outside even better. People have used this, and they have had much success with doing this, and they found that their frequency really starts to rise. Another thing that really helps, I might as well take this quick moment. A word from our sponsor here. It's not really a sponsor. It's something that Tori and I developed that has been working so well for people. Of course, I am talking about, my camera's a little low there. I am talking, of course, about Ai Life, AYALife.com. And that is our CBD oil infused with the spirit of Aya. It really helps to fund the show. But the testimonials that we received are so much better. I mean, we have received everything from testimonials from people with Parkinson's who say, it was a wife that wrote, and she said, my husband had Parkinson's. He hasn't been able to sleep for years. He started taking Aya Life, and his sleep has improved, and he's sleeping through entire nights. It's really brought him back to balance. A friend of mine wrote who tried it out, and he said, dude, this is amazing stuff. I had tennis elbow. I stopped taking NSAIDs. We got more customer feedback from same type of thing. Tennis elbow, runner's knee. It takes down the inflammation, and they stop using NSAIDs. My favorite, though, this is really my absolute favorite, is we had, the camera angle is going to drive me crazy, but anyways, we had 3 different people write with the exact same feedback. They said they had somebody elderly in their family. One person said that his grandmother was near death, and she was actually in hospice. And she wouldn't eat, she wouldn't talk, she wouldn't do anything like that. He started giving her Aya Life in her mouth like that. And about 3 days later, she started talking. And then a couple of days later, she started eating. He comes home one day, and she's playing freaking cards and laughing and giggling with the hospice nurse. And he said, dude, this is incredible. Like, I've never seen anything work so well. We had another one. Same thing. Grandma was losing her ability to go out and enjoy herself. And she started to wind down. She started giving Grandma Aya Life. Grandma was out gardening, and Grandma was Grandma again. And I'm like, wow, okay, so this stuff has been giving people extra time with their loved ones. And it's working for people, not only for themselves, but it's also working for their loved ones and bringing back that very sacred thing that we have, which is time, which is the most sacred thing that we have, is time. And I really appreciate each and every one of you spending your sacred time and sacred moments with us here on Beyond the Veil. I really appreciate each and every one of you. You are incredible. I thank you so much for coming in this machine with me. I thank you so much for all of your help and all of your love, because it's really rough in here. I try to wear a smile, I try to act I'm the strongest, but it's really rough in here. And I think we all feel just how rough it is. But together as a team, we're going to do what we came here to do, and we're getting the hell out of here. So kiss the one you love right now, because you never know when the last time is going to be. And we will see you even further beyond the veil.